Hey there. Welcome to SharkCast Pod, a podcast dedicated to the greatest sporting club in the history of the world, the mighty Cronulla Sharks. This show is brought to you by Dyson Logistics, the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking, and Jason Hawes of Crips and Crips Real Estate. My name is Sam Shinazzi. I'm an OG from 2015, and on the other end of this podcast is a very long-time Sharkcaster and lifelong Sharks fan. He is our Sharks analyst, and he is the diehard that all you listeners are as well, Mr. Joshua Bolling. How you going, my friend?
Good, Sam. It's good to pod with you after a win. Haven't podded with you after a win in a while, so it'd be good to talk some positivity and talk about a great win.
It was a great win. Thanks to everyone who's been in touch. We'll get to your mail a bit later on. If you have anything in the coming weeks, months, years, get in touch with us, sharkcastpod@gmail.com. We're on the socials where you can follow us and write to us in the DMs. And of course, we now have our website, sharkcast.com.au. You can leave reviews, you can leave messages, you can use voicemails and leave voicemails as long as they're 30 seconds to a minute and not too sweary, or any sweary, I should say. That'd be awesome. Josh, Sharks win in Perth. 1 o'clock in the daytime in Perth, in their hot sun. I've been thinking about this more and more, and just how ridiculous that start time was.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to bring up today was, regardless of how the season's gone, the adversity that the boys have gone through already this season, with the travel, with the heat in Queensland, the cold in Canberra, now the heat in Perth, like they've had to go through a lot, and that's what I think I'm most proud of is the resilience and the effort that's still there after a couple of weeks of really grinding tough footy against some really tough sides. That's the thing I'm most impressed by, because it looked really hot out there. Like both sides looked pretty gassed after 20 minutes, and it took energy from the bench to really get us going. And I think that's what I was really impressed with on the weekend.
Yeah, we did an episode with Gary before, which will be out at some point in this week. And I said, I'm really sick of talking about the weather and talking about travel schedules, but you can't avoid it because it was another trip across the country, and in 1 p.m. Perth weather, it's going to take it out of you. And it doesn't excuse things, but there are reasons why things happen. And it was a pretty clunky first half. We got away in the end of the first half with some points, but it was toe-to-toe, both teams feeling it. And as you said, our bench really lifted us. And I think that was the difference in the game, aside from one player, which we'll get to. But I am kind of sick of the whole, I'm sick of bringing it up, but there's still more to come. There's still 2 Suncorps, and there's Melbourne, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, and it's just how it is. So if you're going to win it, you got to win it the hard way. But I'm with you. I think they're doing pretty good. But I think there are reasons why you see teams at times out enthusing us, and it's not an excuse, and I don't like it, but it's a reason. Like Canterbury hadn't left their area in like 5 weeks, come to our place full of juice, bam, we're going to get you. And they did. And it sucks, but maybe there's a reason why. Maybe the world wasn't falling apart. Maybe just it was a bit of tough football for the Sharks and the better team on the day one, on the night. And we bounced back against Manly, which is great. But I was a little bit worried, and I'm glad they've got a bit of a turnaround. I think it would be an 8-day turnaround to Newcastle, and just only a little bit of travel up to Newcastle. It's not so bad comparatively, but yeah, it's been a funny old start to the year. Let's get straight to him. Number one, Will Kennedy. I think I said on this show last week that he didn't have an island, because someone brought up Will Kennedy Island. I don't know how many islands we can have in one team, but if we were to have a second island, he might be able to be on Will Kennedy Island, because it was a 10 out of 10 game. It was something we didn't really see coming, and I'm glad he's getting the accolades in all the press, especially. Like, you got some pretty big wigs, your Cronks, your Johnses, all these people talking about Will Kennedy. And it's something that a lot of our fans can't see. And I'm not here to change your mind about Will Kennedy, but all we can talk about is his latest game, and that was 10 out of 10. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, just to go on that, Sam, it's very funny when you talk to other supporters and you consume, a lot of NRL media. Like, everyone seems to have an incredibly high opinion of Will Kennedy, except for Sharks fans. Everyone has nothing but glowing things to say. Like Kevy Walters and Matt Russell on the call were saying how he was the difference, and I completely agree with the sentiments. I thought that maybe a career game or a top 3 career game for Will.
I think it's career game.
I mean, like, because I think straight up we don't win without him. Like, I think that's without question, we don't win that game if he doesn't play. And he was, again, I'm talking about adversity. He was absolutely blowing because some of the big runs he had, the meters he had to cover at the back, and that some of the defensive plays, like the diffusing of kicks, was exceptional as always. And getting pulled back for an 80-meter effort that just takes the wind out of you. You get no reward for it. I just thought he was scintillating, and I sympathise with the people who are still a bit critical of Will, because he does this, and we go, this is how good he can be, and then he has the games he has had in the 2 previous weeks where he's been fairly poor.
Yeah,
this is like, if we got Will like this for 20 games out of 26, that's top 4 sort of stuff. Like, in terms of he's like that piece that if you add that Will, that 10 out of 10 Will for more games than he's not, like, we're winning most games of footy.
I mean, it's hard to play at that level every week in, week out.
Yeah.
So let's not pretend that. But I also don't think that he's been as bad in those games as some people suggest. And that's just my opinion against other opinions. I respect that. But I find it just intriguing that he can play that way, and then, in my opinion, be a 7 out of 10 or a 6.5, maybe. I don't think he gets down to 5s and 4s and 3s for me personally. But it just what fascinates me, Josh, is the storyline of Will Kennedy, because it started preseason. It's been happening for a few years, but started preseason again, and then he's off contract. And then Liam Eisen does his knee, unfortunately, very disappointingly. And then Cade Dykes has come back, and he's already got some concussion issues, which he'll bounce back from. But, he's not playing week in, week out footy yet, Cade Dykes. So, A, there's no one left to play fullback unless you go Amar Weenie or whoever. And B, he's off contract. And so the Sharks, in my opinion only, kind of have no choice but to sign him, whether they wanted to, whether they were indifferent, whether they didn't want to. I don't know what they're going to tell you. But they have no choice. And then he plays a 10 out of 10 game. And then someone's going to tell me, no, we're not going to re-sign him. Like, what? What haven't you seen from this guy? And he lifts the players around him. We saw the halves play really well. And I say it every week. I'm not his biggest fan, and he's not my favorite player, but he impresses me with his attitude. And when he plays like that, you just have to sit back and marvel.
Well, there's a reason he figures in pretty much all of our 3-2-1s in the chat every week.
He's second in the Dally M's, dude.
And the reason that he's second or third on the Dally M's, like,
second.
Everyone is seeing how good, what the ceiling is for Will. And if he can just find a way to just tap into that more weeks than not, like, he's going to be and he's still only 27 years old. Let's not forget that, with 100 plus odd games to his belt. There are such good signs, Phil. I just want to see him do it for 5 weeks, a 6 week straight. Because that's probably the biggest knock on me for Will, is the inconsistency. We get 3 of these amazing games, and then 2 where it's like, did he play? And that's to your point. Not saying that it was awful. It's just like, didn't offer much. Is probably more of his biggest weakness. So I just want to see this again on the weekend. I want to see another Will lights out performance. I want to give him 3 points. I want to see him stay at the top 2.
I think that's a fair criticism, but I also think that thought, and it's not about you, but that thought in general from that side of the Kennedy following, where he could do this, and then it's like, say he did it for 5 weeks in a row, then they'd be like, well, I want to see it for 1 more week. There's nothing that'll kind of please those people. I understand that, and that's fine. But I just wonder at what point are we going to hear about the contract situation, because I'm sure he wants to sign one. So
what would you give him now, Sam, if it was up to you in terms of years?
I'm going 2. I'm not going to disrespect him by giving him 1. I'm going 2. Yeah. And then if you want to have an option for 3 to make him feel better, and it's option both sides, you could talk about that. I would give him what he's on and a bit of a bonus. I wouldn't go nuts. But I'm coming around also to the point, and a few people have picked me up saying, well, everyone's got a fullback for the next few years. I haven't lost the thought that someone else might want him at some point. If he keeps playing like that, someone else might go, well, you know what? We could do with a Will Kennedy instead of whoever. Yeah. And it wouldn't take necessarily a lot more money for him to leave, you would think. Because he's not on, like, he's on good money. He's not on cheap money, but he's not on elite money. So if someone just came in with a slightly, crazy offer, he'd have to at least consider it. So I don't know. I hope he stays. I quite like him. And until there's a better option, I definitely like him. But yeah, it's quite fascinating where we're at with Will Kennedy.
I think I'm pretty much the same as you, Sam. Until someone can show me a better player that's going to be as good or better for the same price, I'm sticking with Will. Just based on like the money ball situation we get with him. What we get out of him for what we pay him is pretty damn good.
We saw a number of great performances on the weekend against Manly. I thought all 5 of the back 5 were really good. I thought Ramian was very much improved.
Yeah.
And I thought Stone Street again continued to improve. I really liked a number of things about his game. Obviously, his finishing touches were great. One in particular, I think it was the first try he scored. I love the fact that he was backing up Will Kennedy for the no try. It was great to see someone backing up someone. And I thought defensively, when he made some of those reads that weren't quite the right ones, there was always someone there to cover him. So maybe it was that case of we're playing cover defense and I know that someone's got my back, so I'm just going to go for it, try and shut it down. I didn't. Okay, well, the guy next to me got him. So I didn't think there was too much to critique about Stone Street this week.
I pride myself on being fair and honest, and when I call out Sam, it's never personal, but I thought that was his best game in first grade so far in his young career. I thought he was really good. I thought he was his carries looked really a lot stronger. I don't think he got dominated once, which is the most impressive thing I thought about that game was looked to just run a little bit harder. He was poking his nose through a few times. He earned that penalty that got us in the end of the first half to go down and get the second with that big run he made. I thought his defense was a lot better. Like you said, the backing up, he was screaming for it. Like he was riding. And what I think one of his best attributes is his passion. You really see how much he cares when someone else is scoring. He's got the big hand in the air and he's yahooing and he's jumping over people. When he scored his first or second try, I can't remember. He was pointing to Trindle about the kick. Like he's looks like one of the boys. And long may it continue. I think if Sione comes back and he's playing like this, then there will be a conversation. I still, under my head, I'd probably still put Sione in. But if Sam can continue to impress and improve like he has been over the last couple of weeks, there's definitely a conversation there to be had.
Yeah, let's see what he does for the next month or so, because Sione's not back for a little while at least. So the position is all his. Halves were pretty good. I thought Nico had his best game in a long time. Very involved, ran a lot, kicked well. Did little 1%ers. We saw him force that dropout, in defense, which then we got the try, and just some really nice touches off with the ball. Then the other things he was doing was really good. And Trindle, aside from the obvious 2 mistakes, I thought he was strong again. Great kick game. Attack looks really good, defensively fine. So, I was a little bit shocked by the second intercept, and it's clearly not good enough, but also I'm happy just to chalk it off for one game, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame about the intercepts because I thought he was bloody outstanding. Besides that, if he didn't throw those 2, I thought I'd be putting him at a 9 or 10 performance. I thought it was unbelievable, an unbelievable halves performance. The kicking game, the torpedo bomb that he put up that we never seem to do as a club and haven't ever done. And Trindle seems to be one of those guys that will try different types of kicks. When you watch Nathan Cleary kick, every kick is different. He's always trying something, and I'm starting to see that in Trindle's game where he's doing a little chip, like a chip or a grubber across for Sam or a torpedo bomb, 40-20 attempts. Like he's got this big kit bag, and it's starting to become more consistent now, which is what I'm really loving about his game. And the combination between the two, I thought, was the best we've seen in a long time. The passing between the halves was really, really nice. And I was just watching the replay again today before the potty, and the Marwini try was a really good half try because you see Trindle dig into the line, and when he goes to pass, he almost delays it, which gives Teague that when Teague runs that line, it sucks in those two defenders. Then he goes out the back, and then Nico double pumps, and then that creates the space because the winger holds. Ronaldo goes through at center, which might need to talk about that because that's happening a fair bit. And then Marwini goes in untouched. Like, that's just a really clinical halves try. And I was like, the more I watched, I'm like, man, that's really good. And like, that's hard to stop as a defensive one.
Yeah. At times they look clinical, which is where you want them to be. It hasn't been that way for the whole year. We did get to talk to Marwini Harati. That interview is up online, and I can confirm he's an absolute ledge. Very humble dude, working class. Everything you imagine him to be when you watch him play, that's his personality. And had a great time talking to him. I requested it, and they came through with the goods. And he was a bit hesitant just to chat, just because he doesn't do it. But really sweet guy, and you can tell that he is working hard for it, man. He's working hard for another contract. He's working hard to, I guess, not keep his spot, but just be the next guy in line. And he was talking about mentoring the young guys as well. So he sort of sees the big picture, and I thought he was terrific again. I mean, it seems like, we can rely on him for a lot of things now. And that's a really comfortable place to be, because you are going to get injuries throughout the year. And if we want to be a serious premiership threat, you need guys like this to come in, even if it's for 2 or 3 games. And we've got quite a few of these guys now. Got some forwards as well that can do the job. So I was really happy to see him score and just have a really solid game.
I've been really shocked at his strength, actually. I think the thing I've been really most impressed with him is he used to be one of those guys when he first came here that when he ran the ball, he just gets smashed, like similar to a Stone Street, where he couldn't make an advantage run if his life depended on it. And now they're struggling to put him down. Looks really strong, defensively really sound, good finisher. He's giving us like 120, 130 meters a game at least. And hasn't really put a foot wrong for me. I'd like, to the point where I'm like, damn, I'm gonna like miss him playing, which I never thought I'd say about him. And that, with all due respect.
Yeah, I think I've come to the conclusion he just debuted too early. Like, I think he played for Souths as well for a little bit, but I just think some of those early games at the Sharks, he probably wasn't completely ready, and for whatever reason he was thrown in and he did his best, and sometimes you saw some good times, sometimes some bad things. But it's just, the maturity of him, and he's not particularly old. I think he might be 25, 26, but yeah, he when you speak to him, he comes across a little bit older than that, but he's still got what, 6, 7, 8 years at least in the game. Easy. All being well. So great to chat to him, and really happy for his success. And I personally hope we keep him around. I mean, I'd love to see him play week in, week out somewhere. Like, that would be amazing. But I'm also selfishly pretty happy that he's our guy, and he seems pretty content. Not so much in the sense of happy to be a cup player or whatever, but I think he's happy with where he's at, which is, again, another big stamp for Fitzgibbon and the way the Sharks are running their organization. The bench, Josh, was awesome. They really lifted us when we needed it in that heat. In particular, obviously, Rudolph, Talakai, and Hazelton. All three were really good at what they did. I've been really impressed with Toby the last 2 games since injury. Yeah. Just really quick, energetic football for a guy who's, more on the veteran side than not. He's still got a bit of a spring in his step, and I've really been impressed with that role, and it's really effective. And I mean, I thought Hazelton returned to some really good form. That was sort of like some pre-injury form as well. And you know what you get from Siffer, he's just the best. So I'm really happy with that. There's a lot of talk about Atkinson with being the 4th man on the bench. It's getting probably too much attention for my liking, as in, like, I think as long as we win games, I don't really mind what happens. I'm not saying it's perfect, but he's obviously being picked for a reason. And I wouldn't necessarily have him as my 4th guy or first guy off the bench, but yeah, I feel like we're potentially obsessing over it a little bit too much, while things are going okay. And when I say okay, we lost the Canberra game from a Hail Mary, and we were out enthused in one half of football against the Bulldogs. That's been about it. The Penrith thing I'm not really counting because we should have beaten them, and that had nothing to do with the bench. But where do you stand on that? I know that you probably wouldn't be an ACCO guy on the bench, but do you think it's getting a bit out of hand, the whole talk, or you happy with people building it up?
It's an interesting one because at the preseason, I was very much like he's got to be on the bench. And probably as the season's progressed, I'm now at the point where I'm like, I think like a Hepa or a Tukes or someone probably gives us more if we're only going to play like a token 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because we can cover the positions with what we have already. If Will goes down, a Ronaldo or Moweni or whoever can go play fullback for the remainder of the game. Sifa can come to an edge. I think we've got the coverage there, probably besides halves. But even then, we've seen Blake and Cam steer the ship and get us wins. So
why do you think the coach is doing it?
I think he's still a little worried about one of the spine going down and having no real coverage. But I think we can manage. I think you can make do with what you've got. And I just think the token 15 minutes, I don't think Dan's actually been bad at all. I actually think when he comes on, he's been okay. But to have him like kind of come on for McInnes and do a 10 minutes in the middle, it just seems a little counterintuitive when you've got a Hohepa who would probably be stinging to come on and give 15 minutes of absolute gas, and
yeah.
I think that's one thing we've missed over the last probably 2 years is giving a couple of kids, not kids, but like guys who want to prove themselves and would give absolutely 110,000%. Not saying that they aren't the other boys, but that youthful exuberance of like wanting to prove yourself. Sometimes I think we lack that because we've got a lot of guys who have kind of been there, for the last few years pretty steadily. And I think that's just where I'm like, if you brought a Hepa in who has everything to prove, I just think you could maybe see that bench injection go even to another level.
So what Hohepa brings is a forward's body with skills of a half. And that's pretty important as a bench player, I think. And I would love to see him get a go because he's done nothing but really good things since he's been at the club. And I also think that Tuku has had a really good season in limited spells. Like I've been really impressed with him. And I think that he needs more time. I think that's a guy that needs development. I don't know. Like I think a guy like Hohepa could probably, he's a bit like in the Billy Burns territory where you could, or even Marwini, where you could play cup footy and then just push him up and he's ready to rock. Or not play him at all. He's the 18th man every week and put him in like Beryl. But I think Tuku's a different story. I think he's a very physical player and I think he needs that contact. And so I'm with everyone else saying I probably wouldn't pick Atkinson unless there was an obvious injury. But I'm just a little concerned that we're all getting a bit too obsessed with that storyline. I'm not staying up late worried about that concern, but it does take over a lot of storylines. And I'm fine with it. I'm happy to talk about it till the sun comes up. You know that. I love talking Sharks, love talking Dan Atkinson. But I think sometimes as Sharks fans, I can't talk about other fan bases, but as Sharks fans, we tend to like pick something and just stick with it and stick with it and stick with it. But today I walked away from being in the environment of the Sharks and I thought to myself, maybe there's a reason Fitzgibbon picks him that we don't know about, and maybe that reason is right. And it's not blind faith, but it's more a trust that he's picking him for a number of reasons. And okay, maybe it'd be great for him to tell us, but he's obviously not going to in his limited media. So I don't know. I just can't go along with the storyline, Josh, that the coach doesn't know what he's doing and he's picking him for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? I hear that a lot.
I agree with that. And look, I don't think we're losing or winning games because Dan Atkinson's on the bench. Like that's absolutely not it. It's probably more, at least for me, it's more of that we could probably get a little more or a little something else out of that position being so. That's probably my only contention. Otherwise, I'm very similar to you in that I don't really care if Dan
it is topical. So I'm not suggesting people shouldn't be allowed to raise it as much as you want. I just personally, it's not on my list of things that I'm worried about because there's got to be a reason why. It's not just he's not just picking him because he likes him or because he thinks one player in particular is going to fall down. There'd be, I think he'd have like 8 reasons why he's there off the top of his head. He'd be like, number 1, number 2, number 3. So frustrating for fans, I get it, and frustrating that you don't know why, and maybe you have a guy that you would have there instead. But yeah, I just thought we'd have a chat about that because it is very much in the airspace of Shark Nation that why is that guy getting picked every week?
I think it's also because lately the bench has been probably our best asset, and like him being a part of it, it's like, oh, these other 3 guys are going so good, and then there's Dan.
Sure.
Rightly or wrongly, that is probably where a lot of that discussion's coming from, because Hazo and Toby and Siffer were just unbelievable on the weekend.
Yeah.
Like Siffer was back to his brutal best. Like, haven't seen that probably this year for me yet, and that was like, this is that middle Siffer that we want. And I know you're the same as me. We want more. I want another 10 minutes out of Siffer there. Like, he's just wrecking ball.
I definitely want more time for him. And, you know, I mean, working out player times and how much everyone should be playing has never been a strength of mine as far as looking at games. I can sort of tell you what I like and don't like. I've never sat down and gone, this guy needs to play 32 minutes. It's like, I don't look at it that way. But when I see a Stiffer playing 22 minutes, for example, I'm like, in my head, he'd be playing at least 40 minutes. You know, the more the better. Yeah. Same with Cam. I love Cam being out there for as long as he can be. And there are certain players I really want out in the field doing their thing. And then I would look at other players and go, so I thought maybe last week Hazelton played for a bit too long, but he actually had a really great game. There was nothing negative about his game. When I looked at his minutes, I was like, oh, that's a lot of minutes. I didn't really realize that at the time. So again, just little things that we can pick apart. But Sharks win. Pretty happy with the win. It could have gone either way in a lot of aspects. It got a little bit hairy there at the end with the second pick. And you were just sort of thinking, they actually could lose this because what have we got? 1:20 on the clock and they're getting the ball. They're going to spread it. But, you know, thankfully it went the right way. But after the Canberra game, you realize anything can actually happen in this game. So let's wrap that, Josh. Let's tell everyone about the Royal Motor Yacht Club in Port Hacking. Good friends of ours. Hello to Liam and the crew down there, and especially to their restaurant, The Galley, which is delicious and awesome. You and I have been there, Josh, for food. It's a great place to be. We've been there to watch footy, and we'll be there in the future to watch footy. And it's a very chill place, beautiful location. They've dropped the local, what is it, Josh? The 5-kilometer rule where you need to sign up if you're not in the 5. It's all gone. Yep. Anyone's welcome for free. Jump on in. Any issues, tell Liam that we sent you. They have a website, rmycph.com.au, or you can contact them on 9523 9300. And they're good mates of ours down there. Josh, let's jump into the mailbag. This week it's not as big as last week, which is, you know, a blessing and a curse, but thankfully it's a little bit more positive, which is awesome. Now I have to tell everyone that I haven't read every word of every email, so we're going to go through it, and what happens will happen. And we're going to start with Alexa. Alexa is written in. First time on here, and I always listen to your podcast. I'm frustrated. I can't understand why they keep playing Dan Atkinson. Does he not realize it's a bad decision? He's never been the same since signing with the Dragons. Time to blood someone else. We won't be winning while he's wasting a bench spot. Or is there some other reason they won't drop him? It's not performance related, but every time I see him named, I lose all confidence in a win. So that is from Alexa, and I replied to Alexa, so Alexa knows that I did read that one. So Alexa, I did reply to that, but we've been through that. So just go listen to the last segment, and you will know that we've answered your question. There were some YouTube comments, which is always awesome. And what do we got here? Warwick said, after Vegas, it's so much sweeter to come away with a win from Perth. Will Kennedy had a blinder, absolutely. Now, Steve was in touch with us via our website, Josh, sharkcast.com.au. It's very easy to leave us a note. I say a note, it comes to us in an email. It's a message. I'm sure you've been on a website where you can just leave it. It's a contact form. Very easy to do. Steve says that was a win the fans needed, especially after the depressing horror show finish against the Raiders. Happy with the defense in our own 20. Manly have some potent edges, and we kept them out time and time again. That's worth noting, Josh, that first half defense in particular absolutely repelled them. I was saying at some point with the people I was watching, I was like, they're cracky, I think. And they didn't.
I think it's a lot of that, what you were speaking before about the cover defense. That was probably the thing. Like there's been a lot of tries this year that have been pretty arsey, if I can use one swear word, is the system hasn't been broken down all that much besides really the Bulldogs game. I actually think defensively the system's been quite sound.
Mm-hmm.
The cover defense has been, for the most part, pretty good. And like the 3 tries Manly scored, one was a last play desperation kick and 2 intercepts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we really defended them quite stoutly. I'm not saying they threw a lot at us, but like they stripped the numbers a few times and we handled it really well. Like a lot of calm heads and working hard in that heat. And that's, again, like a really impressive trait that will when everything else comes together, that will still be there. As long as the effort's there, that the ball playing and, like the clunkiness, that will sort itself out in time. That's the stuff you want to see. And that's what I've probably been most impressed. The effort's always been there, has been the whole year.
Steve says, Will Kennedy, wow, man of the match. Also, Hazelton in defense, season best form. And Captain Cam was tireless. Steve would like to see Hohepa elevated to 14. Acko is good, but he's leaving and Puru offers more. I don't think we've unlocked the best of AFB yet. We're not getting the second phase we should be, considering his offloading ability. Up from Steve. Yeah, we've seen a little bit of that. We've seen a little bit of the offloads, Josh, but I think that it can definitely improve. And I think it's more to do with his support rather than his actual play. I think that he's kind of always looking to pop him.
He had 3 offloads on the weekend. So, I mean, that's pretty good. Like, and Kafusi had 4. Like, I know Kafusi's another discussion altogether with where he's at, I think. But between that 2 starting front rowers, we had 7 offloads. So, like, I don't think that's really an issue. I think it's more what we do after the ball is popped. I think we tend to, like, when Jesse gets an offload or he beats a man, he just tends to kind of crab back in the middle of the field and it goes nowhere. So I think that's probably more of the discussion than the offloads itself.
Shane says a great defensive effort by the lads. As you said, Josh, a crap kick and 2 intercepts flattered the Seagulls. I thought our bench turned the game. Are we underutilizing Sifa? He's a former Origin player. He also says, congrats to our fullback, who the Perth Bears probably sees a franchise player now. Love your work as always. Cheers, Shane. I mean, that's a great point. And what I was hinting at before, not so much with new clubs coming in, but of course, new clubs are coming in and they might look at Will at fullback and go, he's our guy. And he would get more money in that instance. But on the point of Sifa, are we underutilizing him, Josh?
Well, as we just said before, like, we both want to see more from him. And I don't think it's a case of that he can't do it. I think it's a tactical thing because it's not like it's center, right? Like, he's doing a lot more work that the energy gets zapped quicker. But I definitely think he's got another 8 minutes, to get him to at least 30. I think I know it's hard because Adam plays big minutes and Cam plays big minutes, and we're trying to, keep everyone fresh and all that sort of thing. But you got to find it. You got to find another 8 to 10 minutes for him, I think, at least.
In some ways, I think if they're going to persist with the bench they have, you limit Atko's minutes or you don't play him if he's there for safety. And I'm not saying that's why they've got him there, but if we think he's there for safety, he doesn't play, and we use 3 forwards, which teams have done before, and Sifa gets his 14 more minutes or whatever.
Yeah. And then, like, that's the thing. It's like, if we are in a position where we're winning 40-10 with 10 minutes to go, rip Brayley off. Sure. And then chuck, like, that's the kind of time. Or if you run with 4 forwards, you chuck Siffer back out there and Cam goes to hooker for 10 minutes, or Cam goes to 7, or whatever you want to do. Like, there's ways. We haven't really been in that position this year to really play with that, but that's something I'd be looking at as well.
Susan says, was a gutsy win by the boys and happy for the 2 points. The guys were gassed at the end of the game. So happy for Will Kennedy. He was amazing. I can't believe the negativity he gets every week. He's a beautiful soul, and I'm proud of him to be a Shark. Up, up. That's from Sue, who's a big listener of ours, and she travels to see the team quite a bit. I think they're in Adelaide, those guys. So hello to Susan and her crew. Stephen says, the title of his email is "Where there's a will, there's a way." Great game from Will Kennedy. Haven't heard anyone mention his defense. It was one of his better games defensively. Happy long-time resident of Will Island. Okay, Will's getting an island. Talk to me about his defense, Josh.
Well, it just got me thinking. There was, not to make it negative, but there was that one miss right near the end where he got stepped and Adam Fanua-Blake came and saved the day, which I thought, by the way, we haven't really spoken about that. That was
like they're both factual. Yep,
superhero effort. But besides that, I think his best defensive attributes are the diffusions of the kicks, right? Like just shutting down everything. And we saw that Manly let a few balls bounce or dropped a few balls off high kicks, and that gave us opportunities to score points. Where Will doesn't give anyone that. He might give you 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah, so there was that one in the first half. And I said it to the people I was watching with. I was like, the sun was in his eyes. There is no, he never lets it bounce, right?
Yeah.
Within reason. Like, if it's going to him, and there's one that you might remember, and he pretty much did everything but shield his eyes, and he just lost it. And I was, in that instance, I'm okay with it. It's like, I'd rather you not, if you can't get it, don't get it. And it's going to bounce. Yeah. And let's hope it bounces the right way. Obviously, you don't let it bounce just because you don't want it. He lost it. He lost it in the vision. So
definitely.
But that's one, as you say, one, which is pretty good. Scott says, my favorite part of the game was towards the end of the first half. Hazelton got the ball on the Sharks 20, and like he was shot out of a cannon, proceeded to make 20 meters. That's from Scott. He had a really good game. Ray has written to us again via the website, sharkcast.com.au. Love the pod, living in Orange, New South Wales. Your pod provides local content, which helps grow the supporter base. Thank you very much, Ray. Quick thought on Atco being on the bench. What's the probability that Nico and Tricky play every game of the season? Slim at best. Having Atco primed and ready to go anytime when one of the halves goes down in one of the most important positions on the field is pretty important. I agree with everyone's thinking having 4 forwards gives you a little punch, but Atco won't let us down in his 10 to 15 minutes and also keeps him in tip-top condition to step into a half position anytime. Keep up the great work, Ray. So that's a bit of positivity from Ray about the situation, and I can't disagree with that. Again, if I'm in charge, I may not go that way, but I can't fault that email, right?
No, it's like what we've been saying. It's like, I'm sure that the game that we drop Atco from the bench is the game that someone will get injured and we'll go, why didn't we have him? But that's just...
You're the second person to say that to me in the last hour. I kid you not.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, tongue in cheek, obviously, but yeah, I fully see the point, and it's not many teams have guys like Atco that can just kind of come on and play 1 to 13. Like, realistically, what position he probably hasn't played second row is about the only position he hasn't played for this club. So it is handy, and I see that is probably with Fitz. That's one of his points. Is like, man, this guy can come on and play anyway if I need him to, and he would, and do a pretty handy job. So, I'm not losing sleep over it. I'm just, like you said, if I was in charge, probably not. Until it really fails us, or we see it crumble before our very eyes. I'm not too concerned.
All right, next up we have Peter. Now, Peter is answering a query I had last week. We had a gentleman write to us who was in the military, and he mentioned a W01, and we didn't know what that was, respectfully. So Peter says it's a warrant officer, first class, the highest rank an enlisted soldier can reach. I myself retired from the Army, W02. He says, anyway, enough of that. So thanks for pointing that out, Peter, because we really didn't know what we were talking about. I must give a big thumbs up to our boys on the bench. We didn't lose anything when the three big guys came on. I must eat humble pie when it comes to Toby. I once likened his line impact, so his line impact, to a budgie flying into a window. Do we remember that?
I don't remember that, but that's a good. It wasn't too wrong.
He says, but he's improved and proved me wrong, and I'm very happy about that. On to the next up. Sharks till I die, Sharky Pete. So that's Pete. Thanks much for all that. Yeah, Toby, as we said before, he's improved massively since he's come back, particularly from injury, and he's playing with a new energy, and I guess the energy that he had when he first started in first grade, just really short, sharp bursts, which I think we like.
Well, it's because he's coming off the bench, which is his best spot.
Yeah. Reese has been in touch also via sharkcast.com.au. He says, firstly, what a win. Kennedy was nothing short of sensational. What a moment for the club and for us as fans. He then says, that said, I wanted to share some ongoing concerns. Too often it feels like we're an afterthought in the media, rarely covered unless it's something negative. Unlike other clubs, we lack a strong official presence on platforms like YouTube, and we're still saddled with a reputation on having a traveling fan base, and a small one at that. But I do know this, we have a passionate supporter base. The club has heart and history worth celebrating. It genuinely stings to see clubs like the Bulldogs getting consistent goodwill and exposure while we feel like we're shouting into the void. So I guess my question is, what are clubs like the Dogs doing that we're not? And more importantly, what can we do as a club and fans to start turning this around and building the presence we deserve? Thanks again, and up Cronulla. That's from Reese. Wow, that's some heavy stuff there, Reese. I think firstly, as far as the comparison to the Bulldogs, is they have 30 more years history than us for starters. And there is no doubt they have a bigger supporter base in numbers. And the sort of supporter base they've had for the past sort of 30 years is a very vocal one. And that's grown into a multicultural crowd. They were the first team, I think, to embrace multicultural supporter days and that kind of stuff. And with that comes, things like the drums and the singing and the chanting. And I'm not saying that has to be a multicultural thing. I don't want to go down that path. But they're obviously a very vocal fan base. I said to people, I think I told you, Josh, that when I walked into the game against the Bulldogs, there was a 17-year-old kid barking at me, and he was not high or drunk or anything. He was just pumped up, and he started barking at me, and I was like, this is pretty good. Let's go, So I think they're they have a lot of success on their side. Like, they've won a lot of grand finals and had a lot of superstar players, and they've, Dogs of War was actually a real thing. It's not something made up for our younger listeners. Like, that was how they played. Now, it's not to say that we haven't had amazing players or success or whatever, but I think number one, to answer your question, Reese, is that they have a bigger supporter base, and it's a better known brand because they've won more premierships and that kind of thing. As far as what we can do, I mean, you can get in touch with the club and ask them to do more things that you want to see, like official this, official that. But as someone who's dealt with the club and deals with the club on a weekly basis, I think at the moment it's sort of not where the priority lies. And that might be for a number of reasons. It might be because they're a smaller club with less employees and the whole thing. Like, there's only so many hands to do so many things. But I think maybe you're looking at it like I'd sort of flip it and go, as you've said, we have an amazing supporter base. We've got, as far as I know, 3 different podcasts talking about the Sharks. We have supporter bases that go out of their way to encourage people to come to games. There's a lot happening for Sharks fans. But is it happening on a major, wide mainstream level? No, not really. So I think all you can do is keep winning. I know that sucks. There's a lot of pressure for the team. But the more you win, the better you're going to go. Now, I would also say that having a guy like Nico Hines at the club brings you a lot of press. And I'm not being smart about that. It's not all negative. Like when he's flying high, it's pretty good. You know, we saw that in 22. We were the face of the game. Nico and the boys were the face of the game. We haven't lost that. It's just probably not as glorious as what it was. So have you got any opinion on that, Josh? So I've been talking for like 5 hours about that, but you got any opinion on that?
No, you summed up most of what I had to say. Is like the Dogs are a massive brand in the country, let alone like just the NRL. Like the Dogs are one of the biggest brands in the country in terms of sport. And the eyeballs go and the money goes, they follow each other, right? Like where like if you have a bigger support base, like you're gonna get like the Lakers. That's why they're on TV every day, is because they have a massive fan base. People want to watch the Lakers. So it's the same as here. That's why Brisbane get Friday night every week. That's why, you know, the Dogs are like headline all the time. And when they're going well, like Braithen Ass is a Dogs fan, so 360's always pumping it. Gus Gould runs the place, so 9 are always pumping them. Like,
yeah,
there are little factors. And like, we don't have many Sharks men in the media. Like I know Ennis is there and he still speaks very highly of us. And
yeah,
I think he works at Manly now, doesn't he, or somewhere? Like,
yeah.
And just for me as well, none of that stuff matters a lot. Like, yeah, sure, I like to consume Sharks content as much as I can.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I just care about us winning footy games and winning comps. And if you do that, you will get more press and you'll get more fans and you'll get more money. All that stuff flows on. We haven't been a very successful club for most of our existence. We have a small supporter base, small stadium. There's a lot of factors that go into that.
So on Friday, they're expecting legitimately 70,000 fans. Or more. Now, that's Canterbury South. That's two massive fan bases with a lot of history. And I say that, I mean, generally, like, you know, Souths were there from day one and Canterbury been there since 1935. That's a lot of history. And they, you know, there are circumstances where they've been selling $10 tickets with no booking fee, which is absolutely incredible. And every team should get behind it. Our team needs to get behind it. Like, forget about the profit occasionally, because, and it doesn't really factor into Shark Park because it fills out most weeks. We know why. Okay, we get that. But every club needs to consider what they're doing, what the Bulldogs are doing, because, you know, if some kid walks in for $10 and they happen to win and there's 70,000 people there and it's his first game, are you telling me he's not going to come back? He's not going to grill his parents for a season ticket, for a jersey, whatever. Like, it's just how you do it. You're a lifer. So I think those things, Reese, need to be considered. And the other thing I want to say is this year, the team being talked about most positively because they're unbelievable is Melbourne, right? Every show you see, it's Melbourne this, Melbourne that. Because they're playing lights out footy. No one else in the comp is playing that way. No one. Penrith are in there because they've won 4 comps in a row and it's not going so well. Why? What's going on? Da, 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 da. West Tigers are in there because of controversy. Manly's in there because of controversy. If you look at the 17 teams, they're not covering a lot of things. Para in there because they've won 1 game with a new coach. You know what I mean? That's why the Sharks are under the radar, because what are you going to say? Are they going okay? They got a lot of potential. Coach is going all right. Nico's improved. It's not really headline news.
And you've got to look at some of the other sides as well. Like, no one talks about the Dolphins, the Titans, the Raiders, you know, Newcastle. Like, there's a lot of teams and they just kind of get lost. If you're well, if you go well, they'll talk about you. If there's controversy, they'll talk about you. And I'd rather not be spoken about because we're going all right, as opposed to something's gone wrong, or like unless we're going first.
It's a great question from Reese. Really appreciate it. Great,
really good.
Great question. Thank you for bringing it up. I wanted to give a shout out to Matt from his website is called sharksnerd.com. I think that's correct. Is that correct? Yeah, sharksnerd.com. I was checking it out last night, actually. Matt's going to come on the show and promote that a little bit. And he actually had an article, which I want to talk about. And it covers what you wanted to talk about, Josh, and that's Oregon Kaufusi. And he's of the opinion, and I am now of the opinion after reading his article, that just because we see a stat that says 4 runs for 40 meters sometimes, it doesn't mean he's not doing his job. And it doesn't mean he's not trying hard. And so if you go on sharksnerd.com, he, in some of those games, puts it in black and white as to what's been going on in that section of when Kaufusi's been on the field, when we've had the ball, when we haven't had the ball. He's got a very compelling argument when situations like that arise. And it doesn't mean every time that that's the reason. Sometimes players could do a lot more. But I actually felt a lot better about the Kaufusi situation when I read that article, because I myself can be very stats heavy, obviously being the business I'm in. But he was looking at it from a different stat kind of point of view. So I definitely encourage you to go check out sharksnerd.com, and he's going to come on the show and he'll be able to elaborate on things like that. But where do you stand, even aside from looking at that, Josh, which you can look at later? Where do you stand on the Kaufusi play at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. Context definitely matters, because for the game on the weekend, for instance, we had no ball when he was on the field.
Right.
I think it's just, but my thing is, like, that's for everyone. Like, we didn't have, like, no one in our team had the ball, and
Sure.
everyone else's stats are kind of pretty good. Like, you look across the board, so many guys are making 100 meters or making 30 plus tackles or whatever, or making an impact on the game. And I'm not saying that Kaufusi's playing bad. He's just not involved enough. Like, when he's got the ball in hand or when he's making tackles, he's great. I think he's a really good player. We just need, I need more. I can't, and like the offloads are keeping me interested because he promotes a lot of second phase play for us, but I'm needing more than 50 meters from our starting front rower, regardless of situation. I'm going to just speak blanketly. Like, I can't have a front rower running for 50 meters, because if I saw that for another team, I'd be laughing.
No, I
And I
respect
do it.
that.
Jake Trbojevic,
yeah,
it's playing 65 minutes and running for like 45 meters, and I think it's hilarious.
But you know why?
Well, he's the defense guy.
Well, he engages the line 40 times a game.
Exactly. Yeah, I
he's not taking the hit. He's not taking the hit. He's not making the contact.
Yeah, I completely understand that, but it's like, if you use the Jake Trbojevic example, he's getting paid $800,000, and I'm getting 50 meters a game from him, right? At least we're not like, and that's probably the difference. Like, I know we're not paying over the bank for Kaufusi, but if you give me 80 meters at average, that's fine. I'm happy with 80 meters.
Yeah. All I'm saying is the Trbojevic argument is you're right, but also it seems to be not his role. And if it is his role, every coach has got it wrong, because that's the way he plays the game.
Yeah.
And it's the way the game has gone the last sort of 10, 15 years. I'm not a huge fan of it. You know, block plays and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Can do without it, so much. But yeah, interesting times for Kaufusi. We got some nice mail from Adam. He said, I'm really happy for Mawini. I really rate him and like him on the bench over Atko.
Oh.
If you're going to have a back, if you're going to have a back on the bench.
Okay.
He says that Cam McInnes can play hooker. Brayley can cover halves, a bit what you were saying. He also said Mawini's from Taranaki, I think is how you pronounce it. Go check it out. It's a cool spot. Great waves, great people. So in case you didn't hear Adam, there is a interview with him up on SharkCast. He also said, I'm really happy for Will. He's been copping a bit lately, which I don't get. The dude is second in the Dally M's. He also says Lemonheads soon, and that is very important words for someone like me. One of my favorite bands of all time, the Lemonheads. Evan Dando will be in the country at the Enmore Theatre, and Adam, I will be there, and I can't wait to see you there, my friend. What do we got here? We have a comment from Scott on YouTube saying Mawini sounds like a legend. So he listened to the interview, which is great. And then we also had a comment from, man, my eyes are getting bad, from Matt saying he's an OG from 1988, which was our minor premiership year. Okay, RCB original gangster. If AFB is out, so it's a big if, we think he's going to play, but if he's out, he says Tall Tom and Kaufusi to start. The bench would be Toby, Puru, Hohepa, Puru, Tuku, and Talakai, which is a pretty good bench.
Pretty handy.
He says, as for the bench, I don't know what Atkinson's really offering in this spot in general. But once again, there needs to be a weird early season thing that Fitz does that annoys me. Sure, he covers more spots in theory, but he actually provides less across the board in the spots that he can actually be effective in than, say, a Puru or Burns, which is not a bad point. Like, we saw him concede that pretty bad try in the centers against
the Dogs, yeah.
Crichton, and so I understand that point of view. He says, really, we should be aiming to win the next 4, which is Knights, Tigers, Eels, and Manly again. And that'll be 7-3 going into the Melbourne game. He says at a minimum it should be 6-4, but actually that would be not great. 7-3, that's what we want. So he wants Knights this week, Tigers at Leichhardt, Eels at Suncorp, and Manly at Brookie. He wants to win all those, which would be a pretty good effort if they do. Time to ramp it up a gear and put ourselves in the top 4 mix again prior to Origin. So, yeah, very, very good stuff. Well said. I hope we can do it. I aim to win every week. So, if they can do that, I'll be pretty impressed. To come home, that'd be a really hyped up game, Josh. It usually is anyway, but to come home, you'd think of the top 4 on the back of that to play Melbourne on a Saturday night, who will probably be first still. Whew.
Would that be your number 1 team to beat, Sam? Like, who's your? I mean, probably Dragons, I would say, for you. But we take the local. Yeah, are they the one like you'd love to knock them off this year?
Yeah, I think. I mean, if you're a long time listener to the show, you know how much I respect that club, and I think that anytime you can beat them in all seriousness, you take it. And I don't say that lightly; like I mean that completely. And particularly down in Melbourne, like we got that amazing win last year,
yeah.
And anytime you can win there, you just walk away and go, thank God, whether it's 1 point, 14 points, whatever. But at home, we've got an okay record, and I always like beating them, absolutely. But it's not like I hate them thing. It's probably more of the opposite. It's like, I respect you so much. I'm so glad that we beat you.
Yeah.
You know? And there is the grand final stuff, which is a lot of fun. It's still. But for me, that rivalry, because we won, it's not like some sort of deep, sinister I hate you thing. It's more just like it's kind of fun. Like, oh, we played you in the grand final,
Yeah, and there's still, like, I think Munster's probably the only one left from that squad that's still there. So there's still something. But for me, it's Manly. Like that win on the weekend really is my grand final. Like beating Manly, I despise that club with every cell in my body.
Yeah,
and if we could get them twice in about a month's time, two times in a year, man, like that would. We could not make the 8 and I'd still have a successful year. It's like them, I cannot stress you how much I hate them.
Yeah, I was explaining to my son Chester, who's on the younger side of things, that and has 2% of history about the club in his brain at the moment. But I was explaining to him why, a lot of people don't like Manly, and he was like, "Oh, tell me more." And I was like, "Well, this happened in the 70s and just different things throughout time, and plus we're very hard to beat them at the best of times." So, also the Steve Rogers Cup's very important to us. We I don't think we forget about that, but I think our listener Mark brought it up last week. The fact that we're playing for the Steve Rogers Cup in Perth was a bit, maybe we should have picked something, different game. Anyway, Paul's been in touch. Paul says, please end the Atkinson stuff. Nothing against him, but it's a waste of a spot. Great backup if needed, but not anywhere in our best 17. He also says Kafusi ran 45 meters, and he's not happy about that. Tricky kicked well, but those interceptions cannot be happening. Nico was all round solid and can build from that. Kennedy was fantastic. Seems we get him in an 8 or a 2 and no in between, which I definitely don't agree with that, but I respect your opinion, and it's not an opinion that's on its own on that subject. He says Toby, Siffer, and Hayes off the bench were huge and made the impact. Stoney's try with the catch and tippy toe, that's what this kid can do. Hirotti's been great, but I can't wait to see the best center in the world return soon. And that is referring to Kale Iro. And I agree. I think Kale's, as good as Hirotti's been, he hasn't let us down in one instance. I think that they have missed Hirotti. Like, he's just Hasn't put a
Hero.
foot wrong. Like he's sorry. Thank you, Hero. Okay. Andrew has some praise for AFB about the cover tackle. And who was it? Your mate who did a really nice video on that, Josh?
Yeah, it was the bloke in a bar. Yeah.
Yeah, nice video.
Really
if you
nice
haven't seen
breakdown.
that, it's all over the socials. But he was pretty quick with it too. He was like about an hour after the game, I think, with that. So,
Yeah.
bloke in a bar's got a nice video analysis on that tackle. Sean says you'll have to explain to me what Stone Street did wrong for the no Will Kennedy try. Do you want to talk the listeners through that, Josh?
Yeah, it's a weird one, eh? When I saw it live, didn't notice it, and then when I saw someone fall over, like on that first rip, oh no! Like I was watching with my two roommates, and we went, "Oh, this is gonna be no try, isn't it?" After I was yipping and yahooing on the couch, and I was really gutted for Will, but letter to the law, it's probably right. But I was watching it again today, and I watched really closely, and I thought, Sam doesn't change his line whatsoever. And the guy definitely takes a dive, which is what got, I'd expect our players to do it too to try and get the penalty. But
yeah,
if we're going to be penalised and stuff like that when dudes are just falling over, like we're starting to go on a slippery slope. And I didn't like the wording of the video referee either. Like he's got to walk through and take his space and all. I'm like, what's that? Like we've never heard that before. Like he's entitled to walk back to the ball. He didn't change his line, and the Manly bloke runs straight into him and dives. I thought we were ruling on diving now. Like I'm just confused, and I'm sure a lot of fans are.
I really don't care for the process because, as you say, there was a lot of hooting and hollering. If you could have seen a little camera on me, I was, and you've been with me the footy. I don't go off every time we do something. I go off a little bit. I have a good time, but that was one of the better moments. It sort of brought me back to the no try Tyrone Petrie on debut, chip and chase against Canberra, right? Like very similar. Yeah. So I had similar vibes, and just, because everyone's just so into Wheeler, and he was having a good game. And I was like, what the hell is this? And the dummy at the end, I was just losing it. Like my toupee almost went through into the air. But
like you got
as soon as they go to the ref, you see that ref, you just go, oh no, it's a no try. Like I think it's 99 out of 100 times with the ref showing it's no try. And so they go back and show it, and you're like, what? And you're looking at it, and you're like, oh, maybe, yeah, okay. And it just kills the moment, kills the mood. That's why when he scored the next try, which was kind of as good in a different way, there was more hooting and hollering. And you're just praying that, there's no obstruction or whatever because he's beaten 9 guys.
There may have been
I don't care for the way they do it.
Yeah. That second Will one that was confirmed that there may have been a try and take that one off him with a few expletives thrown in the lounge room.
Yeah. But again, until he gets the kick, you don't know until the kicker lines it up. And as someone who works in the biz, like I can hear all the refs talking about it, and it's until it's confirmed, it's just not. They're looking at it furiously, going through different angles which you don't see on TV. It's a crazy world, man. They need to do a documentary or something on it.
Isn't it annoying because like the whole time instead of celebrating or watching the replay, I'm looking at the bottom right hand corner, waiting for that try confirmed to pop up. I should be celebrating.
And it only pops up for a little bit. So I'm like, wait, has it been confirmed? I didn't see it pop up. It's popped up. Oh, okay. I'll tell you who was happy. That was Jason Hawes at Crips and Crips Real Estate. He's a long-time supporter of this show. Good mate of ours now. Someone we trust dearly. He's been in the business for 25 years, covering the Sutherland Shire and surrounding areas. If you have any questions at all about real estate in general, give him a call, 0410 417 450. 0410 417 450. Jason Hawes, he works at Crips and Crips, and he's an absolute legend. Big Sharks fan, gets to most of the games, and he's just an all-round decent human being who we admire, and we encourage you to get in touch with him if you have any kind of questions about real estate. Juz was in touch. Had some nice things to say about the pod. He said that we play a straight bat when there is so much noise from fans and commentators around the Sharks. Keep up the great work. And I think that's a compliment, right? A straight bat. It's just we call it how we see it. And
Yeah, no BS.
so appreciate that. Appreciate that. Shout out to Stephen, who's a WA resident and a long-time listener of the show. He had a great time at the game. And thanks to Lee, who is also a Perth resident and long-time listener, and sent me a photo of the meet and greet, and it's his young fella with Nico Hines looking very, very, they both look very happy, actually. So it sounds like Perth was a success for the Sharks and Sharks fans. Now, do I have anything else here for you, Josh? I think we might be good here, Josh. That might be all the mail, which is pretty good effort. How are you feeling about the Knights this week? We take them on Sunday, 4:00 up at Newcastle. They were pretty dodgy last week. They can only improve. What are your thoughts on the Knights game?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. They can't attack to save their lives. Not a bad defensive side. Like that's one. They do have a pretty solid foundation defensively. I think they might actually, on statistically, they have like the second best defense in the league.
Yeah,
but they literally have like half of like the next best points scored. So if you can contain them, which should, on stats-based evidence, you should be able to contain them fairly easily. I know nothing comes for free or easy in this game, but if we can get some attack on and defend pretty stoutly, I think we've got to hopefully we'll have a nice little comfortable win on the weekend and have a nice little Sunday afternoon before our Monday off.
I agree with you. I think that we are a better team all over the park. They have one trick shot, and that's their fullback. And on his day, he's unbelievable. On his day, he's absolutely unbelievable. And that could be this Sunday. We don't know that it won't be. But I do believe if you shut him down, you shut down a lot of what they do. Not everything, but a lot of what they do. So I saw some weaknesses in Bradman Best last week defensively and his side of the field, which interested me. I didn't really see that before. And I think there's ways to beat them for sure. And I love the fact that we've got another full week, 8 days in between games. It's a short drive. I think they'll make the trip on the Saturday and then they'll be there for the night and then come back after the game. So not too much disruption there compared to other trips they've done. So I think if AFB plays and if he's fully fit, which at the moment he's trending that way, I think that it'll help us a lot. If he's not there, I do think that someone has to fill that spot because he's been pretty good every week. He's been consistently making 150 meters. Someone else will need to do that. But yeah, I'm also not without confidence. I think that we should be favorites. Like when I look at other games we're in and we're like $1.12 favorites, I go, what? That's kind of crazy. But then when I look at this one, I'm not suggesting this one should be $1.12, but I do think that we should be favorites and for good reason. And, we haven't won too many times up there lately. So the trip to Newcastle is not always a good one. So that'll be something to contend with. It'll be a sold out crowd. It can be hostile. I mean, last week, the Tigers shut them up pretty good. I think that'll be the aim of the Sharks, just to sort of have a good start early and just sort of get in the wrestle and sort of get that win that way. But yeah, I'm with you. If it's been proven to me any year, it's this year that anyone can beat anyone on any day. So, if you turn up with the wrong attitude, you're gonna get rolled. And we saw it last year as well. To be fair, with the Tigers at Leichhardt, nothing's a given. But I do think that we should be favourites, and I think that if all goes to plan, we should win this game. And I'm with you. I think it'll be comfortable in a sense. I don't think it'll be a thrashing, but I mean, at the moment, they're averaging something like 6 points a game. So in theory, you need to score 8 and you win. So I don't think it'll be that easy this week. I think they will bag a few tries. You know what it's like. The longer you go without, then you get something. So I think that they'll have to improve on last week. They had so much drop ball, Josh. Like they make the most errors and they have the worst handling all year. But last week they were specifically bad.
They could not hold on to it.
No, and I think
I take it again.
Yeah, I would too, but I think this week they have to improve. Like they just have to. Like
will.
a team, they're not that bad a club. They're not that bad a team. So I think that they will improve on that, and they'll probably even come out a bit hungry and eager to sort of prove everyone wrong. So I'd be wary of the ambush, but also I wouldn't be worried about it either.
I am glad they did score late last week, just because that would have been the storyline all week. Is they haven't scored in 3 weeks, and then they come out and score, bang bang. So
yeah,
I am glad that kind of, not that it matters really, but like just that storyline's not there of not having scored in 2 weeks, and they're going to go, oh, how good's this? They've scored in 5 minutes against the Sharks.
Yeah.
But I think tactically, you bomb the hell out of Marzu all day.
Yeah,
as good as a meter eater as he is, he's got that Toto sort of body. He's got hands like feet, and you just bomb him, spiral him, chip him behind him, whatever. He cannot defuse a kick. He hasn't got good hands, and you shut down that Ponga 3-on-1 on the left. You hold on to Bradman Best because he is a tank, but he's just going to try and run over the top. You hold on to him, and that Tyson Gamble, that little is having his first game of the year in the 7, so he's going to be fired up because he's an absolute menace. He's like Michael Ennis on crack. So, he's going to come out and want to be spiteful.
He's also not a very good footballer. That's why I'm not.
But the last time they played them, he absolutely tore us to shreds and really got in our face. So I hope the boys remember that, because he had a lot to say, as he does every week. But he'll be out to prove himself. And Frizzell on the front row is an interesting choice. But the side that inspires nothing, really, for me to be fearful of. It's Ponga, Gagai, and Best, with maybe your Pierce Paul can come up with something. Otherwise, we should really handle them pretty comfortably, I think.
I agree with that. It won't surprise you, Josh, because you know me well, but for those who aren't aware, when we do these podcasts, usually, like by the time we get to a certain episode, say this one, for example, during the week, I'm pretty studied up on the opposition for lots of different reasons. And something that I've uncovered with Marzu is that a lot of their best categories, he's number 1 in, and a lot of their worst categories, he's number 1 in. He's really hit and miss. So you're right. He can do some really good stuff, but at the same time, he usually does some bad stuff too. And absolutely in defense and with kick defense, you would target him, and you would target the center next to him as well, because the center's got to worry about him. And the flip side of that, without putting too much shade on him, is that he's an absolute beast. You don't want him to be within 10 meters of your try line, and he can score a lot of great tries. So there's a lot of positives that go with him. I actually quite like him as a player, but I was surprised at how much this year he's been either their best or their worst. And when I say that, I don't mean in different games. I'm talking the same game. So in the same game, like in the same game, he has the best stats here, but he has the worst stats here. And so, okay, this is really confusing. So, and there's a bunch of guys who are every week who have that. You see it, like it's not some freak thing. But yeah, I thought it was topical given we're playing him this week. So yeah, Sunday it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Hopefully there'll be some Easter eggs to consume along the way, and
some good weather up there. Hopefully, I believe.
Yeah, I think the good weather probably helps us more than it doesn't. So a dry track is good for the Sharkies.
And there's that for that writer in earlier about getting some much needed attention in the media. There'll be a Channel 9 game, one of our first, if not first of the year. So there'll be a bit of chat, because 9 like to plug their own games, and they kind of forget that any other game exists for the weekend. So we'll get a bit there, and we'll get the build up. And if we have a good game, these are the games you want to win on Channel 9, and the broadcasters and the free to air. This is the good time to show off.
What's interesting? I like everyone else consume a lot of league things, and we'll have our favorites, whatever. And not suggesting this is a favorite, but I have been tending to see a lot of Joey Johns this year, more than I have in the past year or so. And I, as a player, probably the best I ever saw, and he's always quite fascinated me as a like he knows his stuff. Sometimes it comes out the wrong way, but he's got this really interesting habit of putting price tags on players. But he'll just sort of sprout out a number. And so he was talking about It was a halfback. I can't remember who it was, but it was something to do with the Galvin situation. But he was comparing halves and talking about halves. And he just went, "Oh, that guy. Well, he's worth this much on the market." Oh, you know who it was? It was the Canberra player. Who's the Fogarty?
Yep.
And he just went, "Oh, Fogarty. He's a $1.2 million player."
Oh, I saw that.
And I went, "What? Maybe whatever it was. It might have been 1.2. Whatever it was. And I went, oh, okay." And then what the argument was, the Roosters the Raiders are offering him 450, or he's on 450. They're offering him 600, something like that. Maybe he was on 450 and Manly were offering him 600, and he kept going, "That's a steal. He's $1 million player." And it was like, Joey, you're the best of all time, but how does everyone get it wrong and you get it so right? Why is he $1 million player all of a sudden? Like, I like Fogarty. I think he's really good, but I don't think he's $1 million player. Mind you, I don't think a bunch of these guys are $1 million players.
Yeah.
I know where he's coming from. He's like, well, if Lucas, what's the guy's name? If Dylan Brown's getting 1.3 on before the Knights, well, Fogarty's getting 1 million somewhere. It's like, that's not exactly how it works, nor should it be for the clubs who really want to be successful. But I'm not putting any disrespect to the great one. I'm just saying I always find it funny, like I've noticed in the last year. And it started with Trindle. When Trindle was off contract or when they were redoing his contract and he had a couple of breakout games, Joey just went, he's $1 million player. And it's like, I don't know if he's $1 million player, especially coming from my club. And then I think he signed for, I don't know, something great, like 800 or whatever it was. But yeah, I just found that interesting. But you're right. We're on Channel 9, so we'll get a bit more coverage.
There is a lot of that rhetoric going down where it's like just the one extreme or the other, or they're like, oh, he's $1 million player. Or they're like, Fogarty's a 1.1. And it's like, well, if he's and then Joey will come in and go, if he's 1.1, Nathan's worth 3. And it's like, I know, dude. Like, be serious for a second. Like, it's not how it works.
He's actually not wrong because he's comparing like a Dylan Brown to a Cleary. It's like, well, yeah, if you're paying 1 million for this guy, then Cleary's worth 3. Like, you're 100% right, but also you're being really silly. So, amazing stuff.
Gotta love it.
You do. Hey, Josh, we're going to wrap it there, my friend. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate you. Great insight, as always, into what's going on and off the field at Sharkland. And we'll talk to you soon, no doubt. Have a great weekend. Don't eat too much chocolate. I mean, eat as much as you want, but I just thought I'd put that out there. I don't know why I said it. I take it back. Eat as much as you want, of course. And everyone else, have a great, safe time doing whatever it is you do. Thanks so much for tuning into us. As much as you do, we really appreciate it. And you'll be hearing from us soon, no doubt. This is SharkCast Pod, signing off for another episode. A bit of love for our friends at the Green Machine Pod down in Canberra. They just did their 300th episode, which is a great milestone, and they're good mates of ours. So I did say, Josh, that when we meet them in a finals game this year, which we probably will, that we'll do an ep with them, and they were pretty stoked with that. So Green Machine Pod people, congratulations on your 300th episode. And that's about all I've got to say about the Canberra Raiders. Josh, we'll talk to you soon, my man. Everyone else, take care. This has been SharkCast Pod, and we're going to play the song because we won. Up, let's go.